You're now listening to the Wednesday Night AAF podcast.
Touchdown, Hot Shots!
Here are your hosts, the biggest Arizona Hot Shots fans around, Nick and Logan.
Hey everybody, Nick here with the Wednesday Night AAF podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at AAF Wednesday. We have a special episode for you. Our special guests this week are two of the Reddit community AAFB mods, Bill and Alex. Our music this week is Swerve City by a friend of the podcast, Montezi Moore. You can follow him on Twitter at Montezi Moore. He has a great podcast called Swerve City Podcast, which has my favorite wrestler of all time on there, International King of Swerve himself, Shane Strickland. Maybe Logan and I can get Montezi and Swerve on for a bonus episode soon. But let me introduce first, if I was Dr. Evil, he would be my mini-me. Here's Logan. How's it going, Logan?
Oh, I'm your co-host, Logan Streetfield, and I'm stoked for tonight's show as we have Bill and Alex from the subreddit AAFB.
Then, of course, Bill and Alex. How's it going, you two?
Well, it's going pretty good here. Week 4 was interesting. I think there were a couple upsets, so it shook things up a little bit. Curious to see what happens.
Well, I'm freezing my ass off. It's like 20 degrees here in Denver. And I'm also very sad because this was the first week I missed an AAF game. I didn't get to watch the Iron and the Commanders, which I understand was actually pretty good.
More Johnny Manziel news, with it being reported that it is a 50% possibility of him joining the AAF. What are your thoughts on that? I'll start with you, Bill.
Yeah, putting me on the spot. I don't know. I kind of want to see him in the league. I kind of don't. So I'm kind of right there with him on the 50-50. I think his big name is going to be good for the league, but I'm not sure if that kind of quality of player is what they really want. So I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not sure.
Do you think they're doing it more for name value, like they did with Hackenberg and Mettenberger?
I mean, yeah, I think that's got to be the big draw. People know him. He went to Texas A&M. He was the big guy there. He's gonna, if he does end up on the Commanders, he's gonna draw people in from the cities in Austin, San Antonio, Houston, whatever. He's gonna draw people in. It's just, I don't know. I think they got to get to the bottom of what happened with the CFL. I think that could be a big thing. We're still not totally sure why he got let go of the CFL. So if they can get to the bottom of that, I mean, who knows? But I'm glad I'm not the one making the call.
Right. So then this is a question to all three of you. Do the Commanders need Johnny Manziel after going 2-2? It seems like they have a lot going with Woodside and Williams when they need him.
I don't think they need him. I think he would be the third string or battle for the second spot with Marquise Williams.
So
I don't even think they need him, even if he does bring in that name recognition. That's a positive instead of a negative. They don't need him because they already have the best attendance in the entire league. Now, I'm anti-Johnny football. I'm anti-Johnny football as you can get because he and I went to college at about the same time, and I had a boss that really liked him, and so it was done from the beginning for me. But I just don't see the value that he brings to that franchise. If he goes to somewhere else that is having trouble, maybe like the Legends, that is having trouble at quarterback and doesn't have amazing turnout, maybe it could be a positive, but he seems like a liability.
So you would say, Alex, then that you would think that the Legends would be a good pick for him, but wouldn't you say, though, that with how Murray looked this past week against the Hot Shots, that maybe they don't need him either? Maybe if I had to say, I would think that he would fit in well with Salt Lake, only because their quarterback is all right.
Murray looked good, but what about the fleet though? I mean, they're down to what? They just signed Alex Turkinson or Torgensen or something. They're pretty low too. But with Nelson going on the IR and I guess Berkovici's going to be starting this week. But
so Nelson is on the IR.
Yeah, that's what I heard last night. Broken collarbone.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, well, yeah. So I would say the Fleet would be the team that should be considering Manziel when the Commanders get rid of him.
But how does everything work in this league with trades and stuff?
Right. So you can't because everybody's contract is the same. There are no real cap moves or anything like that. It's mostly just roster considerations. Like if you think somebody's a better fit for your team and you've got a player that's going to be a good fit for somebody else's team. And there's been some discussion as to whether or not Johnny Manziel would even have a choice of where to go. I haven't seen anybody definitively answer whether or not the feeder system is going to matter.
Right.
From
One
what
thing
I
would
can tell,
say,
go ahead.
if you don't mind, I'm a Burko believer, though. Like, I think that nobody understands how good Berkovici can play once his helmet is actually buckled in properly. I think he's going to shock the world.
Well, I'll be there rooting him on in person. So as a Fleet fan, I'm hoping you're right. Because Alex Ross did not inspire me very much. Was not really a big fan. So, Berkovici's my guy now, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It could be interesting. It could work out. It could not. I really don't know. But we'll see what they go.
I don't see Johnny Manziel being happy making $80,000 a year.
I don't either.
That would really surprise me. It is more humbling than I expect him to be. That's not the right way to put that. Let me rephrase that. I think $80,000 a year for Johnny Manziel is like. I don't think Johnny Manziel is willing to take $80,000 a year just to. That's all. I can't find a way to put it.
Okay.
I agree. I can't see him taking that small amount of money for a guy like him.
I guess the question is, though, because he's in Canada right now, or was in Canada, he's coming back to the States. Does he have any endorsement power left? Are AAF players endorsable? Could they sign sponsorships? Do people care about AAF players? Because, being in the American market versus the Canadian market, he's going to be more marketable. He's going to be in front of more people. But I don't know if being in the AAF is enough to swing that into some kind of endorsement, which could make up for him playing in at a lower salary. But I don't know. I don't think we've really seen anything like that. I mean, there hasn't really been a big name AAF player that's gotten any kind of endorsement deal as far as I know. So I don't know. Maybe he could be that guy. Maybe he's the face of the AAF, but I don't know.
If there's one guy who should have gotten a sponsorship deal, it's Luis Perez for the Iron. Because every time he shows up on my television, someone's telling me how he learned to play quarterback on YouTube. And I don't understand how YouTube hasn't slapped their logo on that guy's helmet yet.
I know.
So moving on, talks between the NFL and AAF are heating up to have the NFL loan players to the AAF. Logan, how do you feel about this, especially when players like Mason Rudolph, third stringer for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is being mentioned?
I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to give players opportunities that they've never had before. And instead of, being career third string quarterbacks, they can play NFL and play AAF at the same time as a starter. You look at a guy like Garrett Gilbert, who was the third stringer for the Carolina Panthers this year and led them to a Week 17 win over the second and third stringer Saints, even though they were resting their guys. But, I think it's a great opportunity for everybody. You can get practice squad guys in there. I think it's just the best move possible.
Alex or Bill?
Yeah, I'll say something here. I love the idea in theory. My concern is, though, what happens to a player that gets hurt playing in the AAF? Under contract with an NFL team, he gets hurt in an AAF game. What happens? Who's responsible for the insurance? Who's responsible for the salary? Like, who's paying that guy while he's playing in the AAF while he's on an NFL roster? Because you look at things like, jump in other sports. You look at hockey and the Olympics, a lot of teams don't want their players playing in the Olympics. They seem to find a way around it always. But even baseball in the World Baseball Classic, you see a lot of guys that just don't go to it because their teams won't let them risk the injury. So I know it's different when you're talking about third stringers and backups from the NFL, but I love it in theory. I kind of got to see how it's going to play out a little bit. I think it needs to be fleshed out a little bit and just kind of see how it's going to work. But it's interesting for sure. I mean, I think that's ultimately what everyone wants. So it's probably going to happen sooner or later.
I agree. I like the idea of getting more talent into the games, but I'm against it because of the injury issue. I don't want to see somebody come into the AAF and cause drama because they missed their NFL chance by getting injured or getting sacked or just having a freak accident happen, and they lose their entire NFL dream. Those are the kinds of headlines. Those are the kind of headlines that I don't want to see the AAF attached to.
Right. No, and I would agree there. At the same time, though, you have to be able to give them reps, especially when a situation like as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, Big Ben goes down a lot. And what better way to get guys prepared for something like that than have them play in the AAF? Gilbert, as said by Logan, he was a third stringer and beat the Saints in Week 17 of this past year. Will he then become a third stringer in the NFL and have to sit there theoretically until the next AAF season, where he will then play again? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I guess we won't know until it actually happens. I mean, it's just hard to read right now what they're going to do. It's a wait and see thing, really. I mean, it's hard to say what's going to happen.
It's only week 4.
Yeah.
Right. I think also the NFL players will probably have the opportunity to say yes or no. And it may depend from player to player whether or not they want to take the risk to get the tape and get the game reps.
Right.
Yeah.
And let me actually bring up this good point. Do you think, compared to what we see now, if they made the AAF a full-on minor league to the NFL and had the third stringers play, do you think that would be an increase in quality of football? I mean, even though it's a pretty good quality, or that doesn't sound right. It's a pretty good portion of football that we're seeing.
Right.
So would the quality go up if we had third stringers, or would it stay the same?
I think it's no question. It would definitely be better football. Third string guys that are getting the high quality coaching and the awesome benefits that these NFL teams can give their players are going to bring an extra element of skill to the AAF.
I agree. Totally. I think you'll see the biggest improvement in the O-line play, because to me that's been the weakest part. I keep seeing these quarterbacks getting crushed and missed blocks and all that stuff. And I think if you could get even a third string, backup guard or something to come down and play in the AAF, I think they're going to be better than anybody that they've got currently. And it's not to say they're all bad, but I do think the offensive line is going to get the biggest boost from something like this. It's
been bad.
It has been, yeah. As an offensive lineman myself, it's been pretty disappointing. But I don't know. I don't know what they can do. I mean, there's some NFL teams that struggle to fill their rosters. So, and I know you've got a much bigger player pool and all that at this level, but it's tough. It's a tough thing to do, to find 5 men that can go toe to toe every single play against these big athletic defensive linemen. So, I don't know.
Gonna be interesting.
Yeah. So moving on to the attendance. The attendance report for Week 4 came out. Of the 4 places that they had the games, Hot Shots had a attendance of 8,865. Birmingham Iron, after some terrible storms, 6,539. Express coming out on top this week, 13,621, and the Stallions, 9,302. And this is down a lot of the average of week 3, which is 14,135, which was a major drop off from week 1 and week 2, which 19,210 for week 1 and 19,624 for week 2. Thoughts on that?
Only thing I would say is if I'm remembering correctly, the Commanders were not at home in week 3.
Right.
Which I think is probably a big part of that, because I believe they were home in week 1 and week 2. I could be wrong on that, but as we're seeing from this chart, they're pulling way more people than anybody else. I mean, 8,000 more people that's a big number. So I think there's just going to be a correlation between every week that the Commanders are at home and every week that they're not. But that's not to say these numbers are good. The other note is that these are also paid attendance, right? This isn't the actual people that went through the turnstiles. So the actual number of people in attendance is a little bit lower in some of these cases, for sure at the Stallions game.
Sometimes it's a lot lower.
I saw some pans of the stands there, and they looked pretty empty. So,
I'm going to call BS on that. I don't buy weather as an excuse in Salt Lake. When you look at Denver games in November and December that are at home, we still pack those stadiums. I am not taking, it was cold as an excuse from our neighbors to the west.
But to be fair,
as a Packers fan, I go to every game in the cold. So
to be fair, though, comparing the Green Bay Packers and their Denver Broncos to this newly born Salt Lake Stallions, I think that's a little much, though.
I don't see your point. I don't understand. I will say, though, that both Salt Lake home games have had the worst attendance of all of the AAF games, and I'm concerned that Salt Lake City may not be that football hungry. We've got a few more home games to go, so we'll see if it improves, but I'm concerned.
Valid. It's definitely valid. I mean, under 10K now, their average. It's not so hot.
Yeah, just like the hot shots.
I'm a little surprised hot shots aren't pulling more. I'm shocked looking at these numbers. They're being out attended by the legends, which is interesting to me. I didn't realize. I kind of figured the hot shots would be closer to the Apollos in numbers, but I guess not.
So I don't know what the exact schedule is for ASU, but I would imagine that ASU students want to go and see live football games. They pack their stadium for college football, and where the heck are they now?
Support your team, guys.
I agree. As me and Logan, as Hot Shots fans, want people to go to Hot Shots games to yell shot, 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 everybody.
I was going to say, you said you want people to go to the games to say shot, 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 shots.
Yeah.
And nobody loves shots more than ASU students. Okay? More drinking deaths per capita on that campus than anywhere else in the United States.
You can go to a Hot Shots game and die at the same time.
Whether
it's a millennial dream.
Shot.
And I tell you what, if North Carolina gets a team in the next few years, whether it be Greensboro, Raleigh, Charlotte, I will be there. I will be supporting whatever team comes to North Carolina, or even if it's Richmond.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I'm going to the Fleet game, man. It's a $20 ticket. I'm going to drive down there. I'm going to tailgate, and I'm going to have fun playing or watching AAF football. So I'm right there with you, man. Everybody go to these games. They're fun.
I'm hungry for a team to go see.
We didn't really talk that much about this.
Okay.
The Commanders' home attendance is a big deal. Okay, San Antonio is very football hungry. They've wanted an NFL team for a long time, and they're showing what happens when you pick your market correctly. You don't necessarily have to be a large city, although San Antonio is. There was some discussion about when these teams were picked and how good are these markets going to be. San Diego, a significantly larger city than San Antonio, doesn't have the same turnout because they've never been that football hungry as a populace. It's part of the reason why they never got that new stadium, right? They didn't want to fund it. But places like San Antonio that are all about it are what should be targeted by the AAF if they expand.
Yeah, and as Orlando as well. I mean, Orlando has very good attendance. They're at 20,000, which I think is very good for a minor league football league.
Oh, absolutely.
What is it with Florida in football? Man, they're out there for college games. They have 2 NFL teams.
Yeah, more than that.
Is it 3 NFL teams? Tampa Bay,
Miami, Jacksonville.
and Jacksonville. Oh shit,
Yeah.
Jacksonville's in Florida.
And in college football bowl season, they get like 30 bowl games. I mean, there's like 2 for like Jacksonville. There's like 2 for Orlando. Like, it's crazy.
And WrestleMania is going to be in Tampa next year.
Like, Florida gets everything.
And how many XFL teams are there going to be in Florida? I know there's a Tampa team. Are there any more, or is it just the one? It's probably just the one.
I think it's just
I'm
It's just the
assuming.
one.
Just Tampa, I think.
Yeah, that's probably sounds right. Mark Trestman. I think that'll be funny. But that's off topic.
You can't say XFL on an AAF podcast. We'll get shot.
We're going to have to censor that.
Yeah, we'll have to censor. Moving on to Week 4 recap of the AAF. We'll go ahead and start with San Diego Fleet and the Memphis Express. Logan, I know you are really into this game, so take it away.
You know how hard I was rooting for Memphis.
We both were.
Yeah. I mean, I am a full believer in Mettenberger. And he was clutched in the stretch. I know I missed the first half, so I caught the end of the game. I'd say probably the final 5 to 6 minutes. So outside of that, I really don't know what happened. Other than it was a very thrilling finish.
It was 23. It was 2015 going into the halftime.
Right. I was following it on Twitter. I was pretty busy this weekend, so I didn't get to cover very many games. But we called it.
Yeah, I gotta say, I listened to the show last week, and I heard you talking about how great Mettenberger was, and I was like, this guy's full of shit. There's no way that the Express are going to be beating the Fleet. There's absolutely no way. And then I'm watching it happen. I'm going, oh, God damn it. I'm going to have to tell him when I'm on next week that he got it right. So
Well,
congratulations.
We were just as wrong with the Hot Shots game, though, as I was calling it my lock of the week.
That's right.
So it evened out. Like I said, we were going to kill them. We were going to put up like 40 points. It'd be like 40-7, or 40-6, 40-8. I was completely off on that.
Yeah, that was all right. Anything else we want to mention on that game outside of Mettenberger going off?
We got to rep the first positive in AAF history of special teams. Notorious first 3 weeks, dropped punts, all that stuff. But finally, I know you said you missed the beginning of the game, but the first score of the game, my Fleet returned to punt 36 yards for a touchdown, or 57 yards for a touchdown. That's what it was. But I got to give a shout out to them because that was the first positive play I've seen on special teams all season. So there we go. One positive for the Fleet.
It did also come from a horrible special teams blunder, that was a terrible punt.
One of the worst punts I've ever seen. No hang time. The guy caught the ball in a full-on sprint, going straight forward. He just caught the ball on the run. Like it was great. But you're right. I guess that is true. It was a negative that turned into a positive. But special teams has been kind of a little iffy so far. So
that's true, and you can't take away from him how athletic that play was too, because he earned it.
Yes, he did. But they started off hot, man. They looked great, and then the second half came around and they totally blew it. They were up. What was it? Let's see, 20 to. I guess they weren't up by that much, 20 to 15 at halftime. But they looked great in that first quarter, and then they just totally blew it in the second half.
Your quarterback got hurt.
It's true. But Alex Ross on his first or second play came in and threw a bomb, right? Dropped it right in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown. So he even started off pretty good, but they just he kind of came back down to earth and had a horrible second half. But we'll see if Berkovici can turn it around next week.
I don't have faith in Berkovici. I'm just going to say that right now.
You don't know what he can do when his helmet is buckled on tight.
So coming out of that game, are the Express dangerous? We've seen their defense and what they've been able to do. But now Mettenberger at the wheel, are they going to conflict some more damage?
They are going to have to hope for some help. They can get the wins. They're going to have to get some help. Because Orlando and Birmingham's a few games ahead of them. They're 2 back of Birmingham now, and Orlando, obviously, I don't think they're going to catch them. But, I mean, they're just got to hope for Birmingham to win, and they're almost going to have to, there's no room for, like, maybe outside of 2 more losses. They're going to have to win and get some help.
Yeah.
Read there.
Do you think that they can make the playoffs? If they go 7-3.
That might be the magic number, 6 to 7 wins.
Yeah.
And you said
7-3,
last
though,
week
that would be a 6-game win streak to finish the season, right? That's asking a lot.
exactly. Logan said last week that he thought they could run the table, and
Hey.
I was shaking my head the whole way.
I still believe it. I still believe it, as crazy as it sounds. I am a believer in Mettenberger.
Let's see, what week do they play the Apollos again? That's going to be the last tough battle, right? Let's see, they play them in week 8 at home. So there you go. That's at home. Maybe they can pull out the victory there.
And they have the 4th best attendance, I believe. Although that's not saying much, but
Yeah.
Oh,
you're
Logan,
right.
I need to ask a question.
yes.
If you're a believer in Mettenberger, are you a Metten believer or are you a believer burger?
I am a believer burger.
All right. I'm glad we got that settled.
So moving on
It's very important.
to the Orlando Apollos versus Salt Lake Stallions. Apollos won 20-11.
It was our first snow game of all time
Right.
in AAF history. I was actually able to see this game.
And it was a rough first and second quarter. I would say that it was due to the thanks of Salt Lake's defense.
And the snow.
Shout out to Carter Schultz.
Yeah.
It's our boy.
Scared me. He got hurt during that game, but he ended up coming back in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a
that
little
was scary.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good dude. He did that AMA for us on the subreddit. Everybody check that out. He's a great guy, very friendly, and his mom is great too. She follows us and talks to us on Twitter as well.
Oh my.
That is so awesome.
That is awesome.
So what I noticed in this game is obviously the snow kind of slowed things down really early, and then when they kind of snow plowed the field after halftime. Also, did you guys watch the halftime stream of them plowing?
I did.
That was very
Oh, yeah.
satisfying.
It was super
I posted it
satisfying.
on Twitter. I got all excited when I heard there was a football Zamboni, so I went to the AAF stream where they had their camera
Live
still
feed.
on. Between finding the Zamboni and seeing the wiper guy that wiped the camera, that
Yeah,
was
the
my
wiper
favorite
guy.
part of the whole game.
But yeah, I feel like once they fixed the field up, like it was the Garrett Gilbert show right after that. Like they had no answer for him. Like every time Salt Lake would get some kind of points, Gilbert would just take them right down the field. They'd hold him to a 3rd down, and he'd just like every 3rd down he'd like turn into Tom Brady and like convert it.
Yeah, he
We
looks
should
good.
point out. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, that was it. He looks good. You know, he's I think a lot of people have him as the MVP front runner. If there even is an MVP, does anyone know if they give out awards like that?
Unsure.
We will on this podcast.
Yes, we will. We will have our own awards on this podcast. Don't be mistaken.
And I guess
We will have our. We haven't come up with a name yet, but it'll be similar to the Slammies. We'll say that.
But I guess our next week will be our mid-season recap show.
Yeah.
Or preview.
We should point out the Orlando Apollos had 2 stars emerge during the Stallions game that hadn't really shown up in the previous games. There was Davion Smith, their running back, and Earl Okine. I'm not sure on how to pronounce his last name, but he was an edge defender, and both of them played extremely well. I hadn't noticed them in the previous games.
Very true. Looking at his stats right now, he had a pretty good game on defense. And of course, they've got Charles Johnson, who put up the other 100-yard game. He now has 200-yard games in the season. Big fan of his. Was drafted by the Packers, so I've been a fan since the beginning for him. But I'm hoping he can somehow swing this back in the NFL. But he had another great game as well.
He's got this amazing move when he runs routes that he can shortcut his route and double back on it. And I just was watching the Stallions cornerback slide across the field while he's got traction going the other way.
Yeah, it's too bad that, when he was in the NFL, I believe he tore his ACL in his first training camp and never really got a good shot. I know he started or played for a couple years for the Vikings, but, this could be I kind of have him at the top of my list for one of the guys that's going to get an NFL contract again after the season. So I'm kind of a big fan of his, rooting for him. So it's good to see him do
well.
Moving on to the San Antonio Commanders beating the Birmingham Iron 12-11, handing Birmingham Iron their first loss of the season. Thoughts on this, guys?
It was a close game. Came down to the end. I'm not a Luis Perez fan though, so I'm kind of glad to see them, finally fall. I was rooting for the the undefeated on undefeated, but didn't happen. So go Commanders.
What about Kenneth Farrow? He looked great.
Yes, he's looked good in every game, man. He runs hard every single time he gets the ball. Man, looking at those stats, 142 yards on 30 carries. That's a workhorse, man, right there.
That's NFL numbers.
If he doesn't destroy his knees by the end of the season, does he get signed by an NFL team?
Well, let's look here. His age, he's only 26 years old. He's got a shot. He was an undrafted free agent in 2016 and signed by the San Diego Chargers. I'd give him a shot. I mean, he looks great.
There's got to be a roster for him, right? I mean, he's looked so good. Like he clearly looks a lot better than everyone else on his team. I mean, the rest of the guys that were running the ball didn't really amount to much, but he looks so smooth, and obviously he can carry the workload. I mean, 30 carries, that's a lot, A lot of guys in the NFL don't even get 30 carries. So I don't know. Someone's got to give him a shot, I feel like.
And he's not a big guy at all, and that's pretty impressive for what he was doing. Wikipedia has him at 5'11". NFL.com has him at 5'9". So him carrying that ball at that size is very impressive.
I would have guessed that he was like 5'8", 5'9". I wonder if that 5'11" is accurate.
I mean that's wiki, so
If we look at the big picture of how running back careers are happening in the NFL now, I like to think of Philip Lindsay as the prototypical next generation running back. It's these guys that have a smaller frame, but they have burst speed off the line, and they have good enough vision to figure out where to make their one cut. Then you have that second type of running back that's more of a bruiser, bowling ball type, like the Giants running back, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Unbelievably athletic and all that. But Philip Lindsay is this kind of running back that can be smaller and not have the measurables outside that burst speed and vision on the field. Because as NFL rules change and the way that legal hits are thought of, those guys can survive longer and have more productive careers. So I think Kenneth Farrell may actually end up having a fruitful career if he makes the jump.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair statement, what you said. I agree with all of that.
And shout out to Philip Lindsay for winning me my second fantasy football championship in a row. So kudos to you.
Philip Lindsay is my hero, man. He's I have 2 Broncos jerseys, Philip Lindsay and Trevor Siemian, who now of course is a Viking, but maybe we'll see Trevor in the AAF.
It might be very possible very soon.
So moving on to the last game of week 4, Logan's lock of the week. Atlanta Legends beating the Hot Shots of Arizona 14-11. What the hell happened?
The Aaron Murray show. They rolled him out of the pocket and did these bootleg passes that the Arizona Hot Shots could not stop at all. I mean, they had no answer for him, and he was scrambling the ball as well. He had 7 carries for 54 yards with an average of 7.7 yards per carry. I mean, there was no response. And also it didn't help that the Arizona Hotshots kept going 3 and out, and their defense was just tired the whole game, really. So that's really what happened.
So, as a Hotshots fan, do you think if Ross doesn't get sacked, and if Nick fucking Folk makes the field goal, Hotshots win?
So we're talking the game goes to overtime, right?
Well, no, because it would be 12 to 14. Hotshots.
Yeah. Well, in that case, yeah, they'd win the game.
I agree. If they have more points, they win.
But more so,
It's one of those.
do you think with everything considered that had Arizona had better IQ, game IQ, that Arizona would have ended up winning?
Definitely. I feel they just, there's some terrible penalties, just dumb penalties, and they got behind early, and they couldn't figure out the Atlanta defense until really late in the game, really till about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Like, they couldn't move the ball until then.
Well, I think another way of putting it is that loss is Arizona's fault, right? They lost that game. Have you ever had a Zippo lighter that didn't have enough fluid in it? And no matter how many times you spark it, you can't light the damn thing? That's how I pictured the Hotshots offense during that game. They would get a spark and maybe have a drive that would give them 1 or 2 first downs, and then they would just fall apart. They might have one great pass and then just end up with 3 stuff runs, and they're punting the ball away again. I honestly feel like it falls on the coaching because their field discipline, and they're not automatic.
No. They I feel that your Zippo analogy was very, very. I mean, that's you basically summed up their whole season so far. Outside those first 2 wins, I mean, even in those wins, they had struggled starting. They just, I don't have an explanation for it. Sometimes they look really, really good, and then sometimes it's just, who is this team?
Have you seen Ace Ventura, Pet Detective?
Yes.
All right, so at the beginning of that movie, he delivers that package, and then somebody is coming out of the apartment complex to, like, bash his window in with a bat, and Ace is sitting behind the wheel, and the engine's flooded, and he's going, sometimes you just have to wait for it. And then in the meantime, there's a guy with a baseball bat smashing his windows on his car.
That is the Hotshots.
They're probably going to get away, but they're going to sustain a lot of damage before the engine turns over.
That's great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It reminds me also of, as a Packers fan, of our entire season last year. It's always, it's coming. The offense is getting in gear. It's going to happen. And then it doesn't happen, and you're sitting at the end of the season, out of the playoffs for the second year in a row. So, yep, I know that feeling. And
I hate to jump into the NFL, but I'm a Lions fan, and you said you're a Packers fan. And do you feel that, as a Packers fan, for a few years there, it was kind of like that for the Packers? They had 2 or 3 seasons in a row they started off really slow, and then they the one year I know we had the division lead by like 2 games with like 4 to go, and you guys just rounded off like 6 straight wins to make the playoffs when Aaron Rodgers did his whole relax spiel.
Yep.
So is that kind of how you guys think when it gets late in the season, like every year? Like
it kind of felt like we were relying on that. Like that was our offensive mojo for many years, and then last year, it didn't happen. So, I love McCarthy. I love what he did for the team, but it was time to move on, and I'm ready to see him. I'm ready to get a new start. So we'll see what happens with the new coach, and maybe they can turn it around right away. Maybe it takes a year or 2. I don't know, but as long as you got Rodgers back there, you got a shot, right? So
definitely.
What's weird to me is that the Packers figured out the secret to winning every game last year, and they never took advantage of it. And that secret was take Aaron Rodgers out off the field on the cart and then let him come back on. If you'd done that in every game, you would have gone undefeated.
You're right. It's infallible logic right there. I mean, 1-0 when it does happen, extrapolate that out. You're 16-0 and you win the Super Bowl. So I'm with you.
That's why they fired McCarthy. He couldn't figure it out.
And speaking of the rest of the sports, I was looking at your profile, Logan. I'm pretty sure we are rivals in every single sport because I'm a White Sox fan. You're a Tigers fan, I believe. Hot Shots, Fleet. So we're basically, we're rivals in every sport.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
But I'm a White Sox fan, so I don't like to say that very loudly anymore just because of how disappointed I am there, but that's another sport as well.
Hey, you got to commend them for trying to go after Bryce Harper, though.
Yeah, gotta love it. They got a seat at the table, boys.
Y'all won a ring in 2005, so...
Yeah, but no one even remembers that because it was so...
It was
we haven't
awkward.
done anything since.
Because it was like a one and done type deal. Because like the next year you made the playoffs, but you like lost to Boston in the first round, and it was like all downhill from there.
Yep, haven't made the playoffs in 11 straight seasons. So, anyways, didn't mean to pull us off topic there.
It's all good. Moving on to our power rankings, and by the way,
my favorite part of the week. Let's see how this goes.
By the way, we got all of our Week 4 scores from noextrapoints.com. You guys can check them out. They're a phenomenal website. Small team, but it was obviously a passion project, and it shows.
Yes, highly recommend. They've got a very easy-to-use page. There's not a whole lot there. It's everything you're looking for, stats, leaderboards. I definitely recommend it.
So, with the power rankings, number 8 as guests of the podcast, and hopefully you guys will come on many more times. I've already enjoyed, and I'm sure Logan has as well, talking to both of you. Alex, what was your 8th ranked team this past week?
So r/AAFB has 27 people from the subreddit who come together and pick what their rankings are, and then we average out what each team's position is, and that's posted to our subreddit every week. So r/AAFB's power rankings have Atlanta Legends at number 8.
Okay. So we'll put that for our number 8. Number 7, Bill, who you got?
All right. Well, as he mentioned, we're going to stick with the subreddit rankings just to be fair to the community, and it looks like they've got the Memphis Express at number 7.
Oh man!
Boo! Yeah. They did not move up at all. They remained in the same spot for 2 weeks in a row, as did the Legends. So maybe not totally fair, but the people have spoken.
We should also mention that on the subreddit, everybody who does these rankings also write a blurb that we put underneath the team and what spot they're at. So if you ever want to go in and read what people's opinions are and why they put your team so low, you can find out there and yell at them.
Okay.
Yes, of course, because we do link to their username, so feel free to no, don't do that. I'm not gonna say that. I'm making myself to have a little more work if I say that. So
yes, and very soon we'll start doxing each of them individually.
Logan, who did you have as your number 6?
Well, ideally, if I could, it would have been Memphis number 6, but I am going to go with the San Diego Fleet.
Alrighty.
It's fair. It's fair. I think they choked hard in that game, but it's fair. I think that's a good spot for them.
That whole tier right there is tough to kind of figure out, that the 7 through like 5 to 4 range of who fits in where in those power rankings.
5, I'm throwing a monkey wrench in everything, like I do. I'm going Iron at number 5.
Ooh.
Interesting.
I agree with you. I know we're probably going to get flack for that, but I'm not a Luis Perez fan, man. He's got, no touchdown still, right?
Right.
he makes one great throw and then he makes 3 boneheaded throws, and you were waiting for that big interception, and then boom, he throws that crappy pick at the end of the game, costs his team. So I kind of agree with you. I think they're the most overrated 3-1 team I've seen.
You hit the nail on the head there. What the biggest problem is the inconsistency with the YouTube tutorials that he watched. 1 out of 4 was really good, but those other 3 are kind of crap. We skimmed over it, but we had the Arizona Hotshots at number 6, and at number 5 we had the Salt Lake Stallions.
Okay.
So, was Luis Perez watching Uncle Rico clips from Napoleon Dynamite?
He can throw a football over them mountains.
I could have went pro. Or I should have went pro.
He does. He's got an arm. He was making some really dumb throws, thrown into double and triple coverage, underthrowing the ball. I don't know. If he can figure it out, because he's got the skills, he's just got to figure out how to read a defense and read the field, I think, and move more efficiently through his reads. And I think he can. I think he's got talent. He's just got to figure that part out. And I don't know if he's going to get the coaching in the AAF to really help him out, but we'll see what happens. After that first game, a lot of people thought he was going to go up or would get a contract, but he's not really produced much in the last couple weeks. So I think that's a fair spot for the Iron.
Okay. All right. Alex, number 4.
San Diego Fleet at number 4 for us.
No. Well, so we've already...
Got to pick from the remaining teams here. We got to go off script.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what? Did I miss something?
So they do a power rankings where everyone goes around and they build the power rankings by going around the group here. So we've already got the Legends, the Express, the Fleet, and the Iron in the AAF Wednesday power rankings. So now we've got to put in the number 4 team. So you got to pick from the remaining 4 teams. You got to pull one out, put them at the number 4 spot.
I thought we were just sharing what our power rankings were. I didn't realize we're trying to collaboratively build one.
Well, you could definitely share what the Reddit had and then give us a team.
All right. So we had the Fleet at number 4, and since I was not paying attention at all to being collaborative, I have no idea who was before. So who's left?
You've got the Stallions, the Apollos, the Commanders, and
the Hotshots.
The Hotshots.
Okay, so the Stallions are at number 4 then, because those other 3 teams are definitively better. And while the Salt Lake Stallions have definitely had a very hard schedule so far, they haven't been able to consistently perform to the point where I'd put them any higher than 4.
All right. Alex, who you got at number 3?
Me again?
Oh, sorry. Bill, who do you have at number 3? Alex, give me all the fucking answers now!
I used up all my juice on number 4, man. I got to take some Blue Chew and recharge.
Oh, my. We're going with this. We need to finish, man. Do we need some Blue Chew?
Oh, I've got a commercial that I wrote for you for Blue Chew.
Yes! All right, we'll go with it.
Have you ever wanted a Flintstone vitamin that gives you a boner? Blue Chew, the only vitamin chewable supplement that also makes it much easier to perform in bed.
Perfect.
I'm keeping it.
That was great.
I'm keeping it.
Sponsor us, Blue Chew.
When I heard you talking about that, I looked it up, and I was like, this shit's like a Flintstone vitamin.
I couldn't get through the thing last week. I was dying laughing.
To finish. The whole thing behind that is that a big podcast that me and Logan listen to, Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. One of their main sponsors is Blue Chew. So Logan's
something to wrestle with?
Something to wrestle.
I don't want to wrestle with him if he took Blue Chew.
Good point.
You know what I like to do after a wrestling match? I like to take Blue Chew.
Or beforehand and intimidate your opponent. Everybody wants you at full mask when you're in the singlet.
This podcast is too much. This is
I'd
great.
keep that in.
This
That
might
was
be
pretty
my
golden
favorite
right there.
episode that we've had. I'm not gonna lie.
I'd keep that in. That was pretty golden.
Yeah, hold on. I just need to find my phone and drop. Okay. All right. So, number 3, Alex. Fuck, sorry. Bill. I have a brother named Alex, so.
Wait, no, it's you, isn't it? Because Bill, then Alex went. No, you got it right. You got it right.
So I'm
you got
on
it right.
3, and I'm going with the hot shots.
Okay.
That's right. That's fair.
Hot shots 3.
All right.
Just because I mean, obviously everyone's going Apollo's 1, right? So Stallions 4, hot shots 3. I don't know. It seems right.
All right. Logan, who you got at number 2?
Oh, the Commanders.
Right.
Yeah.
That just makes it easy.
Yeah.
I think everybody agrees with number 1.
Yeah, I think it's pretty tough to put anyone else there.
Absolutely. With the Apollos, Steve Spurrier led. It's either check down or down the field, and it's working.
And he obviously being mic'd up every week is awesome. Big fan of that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm surprised that they... Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm going to edit this. I'm surprised. Actually, I'm not surprised that TNT would now be the official home of the Apollos because of Steve Spurrier. I'm calling it. That's the reason why.
You might be
And
right.
you're referencing the fact that TNT picked up those 2 additional broadcasts, right? And both of them are Apollos games?
Correct.
I think you're right. I think he's a big name. People, I mean, is he the biggest name in the league? I guess I got to think he is, right? I mean,
Yeah, by far.
So I think you're spot on with that. People want to see him. He's obviously got some funny sound bites, and get him in front of more people. And obviously TNT being available to more people is great. So I'm all for that. I'm all for that, getting some AAF out there in front of people. So I think you're probably right though about Spurrier.
Must see
I
TV.
thought that Steve Spurrier's energy and spirit was held within his visor, but it turns out he didn't wear the visor during the Stallions game, and they still won. So I'm working on a new theory.
Oh, my.
It's Blue Chew.
It's Blue Chew.
It must be.
Yeah, with the domination of Gilbert as a quarterback, who is obviously going to get signed by an NFL team in the offseason. Him and the combination of him and Charles Johnson are fantastic. And I think they're going to go all the way and win the ship.
Yeah, I
so
would agree
too.
with that.
I do.
Yeah.
Charles Johnson had a great interview after the game where they just asked him about the chemistry with Gilbert, and he's just like, man, it's great. Like, they haven't really been playing together that long, and they've already got that natural connection. So I think, it's going to be hard to stop either of them, and they're both playing so far above everybody else right now, in my opinion. I think you're right. I think they're both going to go to the NFL next year, and I think that'll be as AAF champions.
I agree.
Yeah. One thing that doesn't get talked about enough with the Apollos is their excellent play design. If when you say Steve Spurrier and checkdowns, it's kind of funny because we see a lot of checkdowns in his offense, but they work so well in the AAF because he's setting up a situation downfield that's removing deep defenders so that his small to medium gains on those checkdowns are actually effective instead of getting stuffed in the backfield. It's not because the guys on the defense can't set the edge. It's because he's drawn them away with his play design.
And we have a really good question about the Apollos, which we'll get to in the mailbag. Wednesday night mailbag! I'll edit that in later.
Okay. Oh, can I interject really quick to say, so on the subreddit, we actually had the Birmingham Iron at number 2.
Uh-huh.
And that caused a big stir because everybody seems to think that the Iron, because of their weak schedule so far, is super inflated. Do you think the Iron are too high on that list?
Oh, absolutely. They're extremely overrated. We have a lot of Birmingham fans that listen to this podcast and follow us on Twitter. Sorry, guys. But you guys are following the most overrated team in the league.
Happy for you while it lasts, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can't help who you're playing. I mean, it's just, I mean, they can't help it, but
I could see the Express beating them out for the second spot in the East for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, if the Express are going to catch anybody, it's got to be the Iron. I don't see them catching Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Last thing before we move on. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Wanted to give a shout out to user Clueballs on reddit.com/r/AAFB for putting together the weekly power rankings. That's not something that the mod team did. He took initiative on week 1 and got a group of 27 users together that are each week coming together and putting this thing, piecing it together piece by piece. I'm very excited to see that happening and glad that a user is doing so well with it.
Yeah,
awesome.
Shout out to r/AAFB in general. They are the premier place subreddit to talk AAF football.
And if you have trouble remembering the name, we also own Reddit AAF.com, and that redirects to the subreddit. A little bit easier to remember.
That's very nice.
That was a good purchase I made late at night a couple days ago. It's a little bit easier to remember, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Moving on to week 5. First game, Saturday at 2 p.m. on TNT. Thank God. Orlando Apollos, or I should say, thank Sky Judge. Orlando Apollos.
Thank the Sky God.
Take on Birmingham Iron in Birmingham. Who you guys got?
Easy. I mean, Apollos. We've talked about it enough throughout this episode. I think we're probably all in agreement with that one, but definitely Apollos.
Let me be a straight shooter here, Birmingham fans. So, this week's going to be your wake-up call. You're going to get stomped by not 1, not 2, 3 touchdowns to the Orlando Apollos.
Oof.
And it's all downhill from there, Birmingham fans.
We're getting blocked.
Your viewership just got cut by 25%.
Yeah.
They're all gone.
All right.
Hey, you guys have
going
Alabama. You guys playing a national title against Clemson every year.
I'm going against the grain here. I think Birmingham ends up upsetting Orlando because they have to drop one, and Birmingham's at home. They have more fans now than they did the last time they were at home. Well, hold on. Was Birmingham at home last week? I missed that one game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Excuse
that was
me.
The,
Okay, so
the tornado game.
if you don't mind me rephrasing there.
Okay.
I think Birmingham is going to end up beating Orlando because Orlando has to drop one at some point, and I think they're going to do it with Birmingham at home with a large following that they've gathered by having an excellent season so far, and coming off a close loss, they're going to be highly motivated to take them down.
Does Perez get his first touchdown?
No. Trent Richardson, 4 touchdowns on the ground.
1-yard touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I kind of want to see him go the whole season without throwing a touchdown. How incredible would that be?
Like he missed that episode of the YouTube tutorials. They never showed that part.
You know what? I'm gonna say he gets a touchdown this week. It's got to happen. It's week 5. He's got to get one eventually. Why not this week?
Yeah. Ultimately, I got Apollos all the way. Apollos are my East Coast team. I'm from the East Coast. I should have picked a East Coast team anyways, but the Hot Shots just drew me in. Their logo, their colors. John Wolford being an ACC guy. The Apollos, I will be rooting for them for the rest of the season, for sure.
Well, as one of our mods, Emily, would say, the Apulos are going down.
Moving on, Salt Lake Stallions versus San Diego Fleet, Saturday night, 8 p.m., NFL Network. Who do y'all got?
I'm going to be in attendance at that game, cheering for the Fleet, my hometown team. I got to go with the Fleet, but I'm not super confident in that pick, but I'm going to go with the Fleet in a close game.
I will take the Fleet as well.
I'm picking against the grain again, and I'm going Stallions because they're a better team than most people give them credit for. San Diego lost a major weapon on offense recently. Even though I am a Burko believer, I think that the Stallions' defense is going to give them hell in the backfield. And it might be a game of field goals, but Stallions are coming out on top.
I got Carter Schultz and the Stallions.
All right. Divided there, 2-2.
Yep. Moving on. Memphis Express go on to Atlanta to face the Legends. Sunday, 3 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. Who do y'all got?
Mettenberger.
Mettenberger here as well.
Alex, what do you think?
I think the Express win in a close game with more turnovers than touchdowns.
I'm also going with the Express. I think, if you'd asked me about this game 2 weeks ago, I would have thought this would be the worst game of the week. But, it could end up being pretty good. It could end up being a pretty good quarterback matchup. So I think this could be a fun game to watch. But I'm going to go with the Express too.
I'll go one further and say that's the first overtime game in AAF history.
Awesome. I hope so.
Yeah, it's got to happen eventually. I'd love to see the rules, how they play out.
Now, for each one of these wild predictions I make, whichever ones I get right, I get $20, right?
Yeah, Nick's got you.
When we get those views, I'll send you an IOU.
Excellent. All that advertising money from Blue Chew.
Yes, absolutely. Follow at GetBlueChew on Twitter and beg them to give us money for ads. And we'll talk about Blue Chew as much as we can. We will say Blue Chew every third word.
Also make it very clear that mockery is the sincerest form of flattery.
Also true.
But I'm being 100% real. Like, I'm totally cool with presenting Blue Chew as our sponsor here at the Wednesday Night AAF podcast, which you can find on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, not Vimeo, not Dailymotion. Anywho, down to the last game of the week. San Antonio Commanders go on to Arizona and face the Hot Shots Sunday night on the NFL Network. I would say that Logan has been right the last 3 weeks in which the Sunday night game has basically been the Thursday night or Monday night football game, as you will, equivalent. But I would say that this game this week is looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of the better Sunday night games we've had here recently.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. Man, this is a tough one too. I gotta go Commanders, I think. But again, it's a toss up for me there. But I'm gonna go with Commanders in a close game.
I'm gonna take. I'm gonna take San Antonio.
Oh man.
My own team, the Hot Shots.
Oh man.
They have the worst offensive line in the league, I think. Wolford's got no time back there. I can't see them beating San Antonio. They just look bad right now.
So I will say, as the longest reigning Arizona Hot Shots fan around, I'm going the Hot Shots. If the offensive line can give John Wolford enough time to run out of the pocket, because he's 6'1", can't see over the defensive backs, and can get to Rashard Ross, then I think it's going to be a close game. I think if Presley can get the ball out, anything can happen, and Folk needs to make some field goals.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot closer than people think.
Oh, it's gonna be a very good game.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
agree.
That's my game of the week.
This is our. I think this has been the best slate of games all year this week.
Oh, I would agree.
I'm very excited about this week's
And it's
games.
a damn shame
Yeah.
it took them 5 weeks to put 4 consistent good games on paper.
Yeah.
I think for my picks for that last game, I would like both teams to lose. And if that's not possible, then I would like Arizona to lose worse.
I hope Johnny.
Like if that scene from The Dark Knight Rises could happen,
God.
where the football field, like there's one running back is just trucking it, and everybody else is just falling into a chasm onto safe, comfortable mattresses where no one is harmed, but everyone fails to score. That's my preference.
Giant scorpions from the desert come out and start shooting laser beams out of their stingers. Kill everybody.
That would be ideal.
I'd pay to see that.
Yeah. All right.
That's good football.
Anything else for week 5 before we move on to the mailbag?
No, that's it for me.
And without further ado, it's now time for the Wednesday night mailbag. Give me some questions.
I'm looking forward to you trying to pronounce that name. That's an interesting username.
All right. I'm going to try it. Coliro Soravus via subreddit AAFB. What is it going to take to slow down the Apollos, and who is the team that will hand the Apollos their first loss?
Well, let's pull up their remaining schedule here. Give me just a second. So the Apollos' future schedule. Let's see here. Week 5. This week they have Birmingham. I think they win, but we've already went over our predictions, so we did have one Birmingham Iron prediction, right? For a Birmingham win.
Yep.
I think that's the upset of the week.
I think that the Apollos are going to get their first loss week 6 against the Hot Shots.
At home, huh? You think they're gonna lose at home?
Yep, and I think the Hot Shots are going to lose this weekend and come in fired up next week and knock off Orlando.
Man, I'm looking at this schedule. I don't know. I guess.
Mettenberger in week 8, say it.
Yeah, to me, that's the one that jumps out right now. Honestly, I think they can beat the Fleet at home. I think they can beat the Legends on the road. I'm gonna say week 8, and it's gonna be a Mettenberger special.
Yes.
He's gonna throw some bombs. He's gonna look like the NFL quarterback of old, and that's my choice right there. Week 8 at the Express.
All hail the Burger God.
I think that when the Apollos go to Orlando, I don't think they're going to be able to stand up to the Orlando offense. So the Apollos will definitely lose. Wait a second. Those are the same teams. No, I don't think they're going to lose. I think the Birmingham might have a chance to take the win off them this weekend, but that would be it.
Right.
I think they are definitely the team to beat.
Yeah, I would agree.
San Diego's a trap game in week 9, but the only issue is it's in Orlando.
What about the Hot Shots? If the Hot Shots were 4-0 going into this week, would they be the team to beat the Apollos?
I suppose. I mean, it depends how they got to 4-0, but I mean, they've got to be one of the more talented teams left that they're playing. So,
Right?
But even at 2-2,
They have the pieces to beat.
Even at 2-2, I still think they have the pieces to beat the Apollos.
They do, but they just have to fulfill that potential.
Yeah.
and they got to do it on the road.
Right.
You see glimpses of it, but can they keep it up for a full 4 quarters? Most importantly, can they keep it up, from the beginning? Because they start slow all the time.
Yeah. So, next question from Libertarian Superhero via the subreddit AAFB. Is Kenneth Farrow the league MVP at the moment? In parentheses, I know the easy answer is Gilbert, but Farrow's basically the Commanders' workhorse.
That might be your two guys right now. I go Gilbert just because Orlando's undefeated, but Farrow's up there for sure.
Yeah, there's a couple other guys. I mean, you got Jaquan Gardner. He's looked pretty good. He had that big run. I like his
Carter
moves.
Schultz.
Yeah, he's been very solid. He's had some incredible games. Jamar Summer has been absolutely shut down at cornerback for the Iron. Big fan of his. So I don't think they'll ever give MVP to a defensive player.
No.
I mean, I got to go Gilbert. I really think he's the best guy in the league right now. But sure, I mean Kenneth Farrow's definitely in the conversation. He's definitely up there in the top 5, no doubt about that.
And I think if that wide receiver for the Apollos, Johnson, if he keeps producing, he should be in the conversation.
Oh,
too.
yeah, for sure. You might have co-winners.
Yeah.
It's sad that none of us even mentioned Trent Richardson because he might be a meme on his own because of his poor yards per carry, but his efficiency at that position is unbelievable.
He does well in the pass game.
What do you guys think? You think he's going to end up back in the NFL at some point, or is that ship sailed?
Ship is
That
sailed.
ship
I think
sailed.
He's done.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
He's going to be the
Unless you
first.
put him in as fullback or something.
He's going to be the first inductee into the AAF Hall of Fame.
He's 31. Right?
Is he 31 already?
That's hard to believe, but I guess I could believe it.
I have
Maybe
to
I'm
look
just
it up,
getting
but that's
older.
the number that was in my head.
28.
Wikipedia says 28.
Okay, so I'm thinking of somebody else, but I think he's on the bubble for running backs. Unless your name is Frank Gore, you're not playing in the NFL after the age of 26. You're starting to peak.
I guess if you wanted a short yardage running back, that's your guy for goal line 1 yard runs. But that's outside of that, I don't see it.
Yeah, but there are better guys.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what though? Good for him though to at least be sticking around and trying, right? I mean, he obviously loves the game because he being what, he was a first overall pick? No, he's the 3rd overall pick. I mean, he made a lot of money in the NFL. I can't imagine he really needs this money. So to me, he's out there playing for the love of the game and to try to get back in the league, which is exactly what you want to see, I guess. So kudos to him for sticking it out and maybe putting himself in a situation that maybe is a little bit beneath him. But he's out there doing it, so kudos.
He should at least get an invite to a training camp, probably.
He probably will. He'll probably sign on a 90 roster somewhere.
Yeah.
I hope he's remembered as a guy who loved the game, and so he kept playing. And that's honestly why I'm using it as a segue to talk about how Brett Favre is going to start for the Hot Shots next year.
Oh, man, I'm excited.
Doing it for the love of the game.
Brett Favre is my idol. Brett Favre is my guy. I would be okay with that. He can still throw it. I love that man. I don't condone what he did. Obviously the whole picture thing, I'm not going to go into that, but love the man, I got to say. He loved the game.
I wish I had a Madden voice. When Brett Favre can Brett Favre is Brett Favre.
And Brett Favre is Brett Favre. He went from Green Bay to the New York Jets to the Minnesota Vikings, and now he's coaching high school ball down in Minnesota.
I'm glad we got a little bit of Brett Favre into this podcast, I got to say.
So closing remarks, I'd just like to say thank you, Bill and Alex, for partaking in this week's podcast. I will say wholeheartedly that this essentially was my favorite episode that we have done thus far.
Well, glad to be here. Thanks for the invite. I will still comment on this post tomorrow, as I always do, even though I am the guest on the show. So get forward, look forward to that.
Excellent.
You'll have my comment as always.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. Make sure that when you post the podcast, you put Wednesday Night AAF Podcast in brackets ahead of the title.
I'll try.
I gotta say that rule trips up more people than anyone else. So that's a holdover rule from the NFL subreddit. We're probably gonna end up removing that at some point, but we'll get there eventually.
Gotcha.
And of course, anybody out there listening, hit us up on Reddit at Reddit AAF, RedditAAF.com. If you want an easy link to our subreddit, feel free to let us know what you think. This is
Or
really
Reddit.
for you guys.
Apologies, I'm sorry. Or reddit.com/r/AAFB if you're old school.
Yes.
We didn't talk about expansion cities. I thought I had seen that on the list prior. Did you still want to have that conversation?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
I do not recall the teams. What were they looking at?
A lot of people were saying St. Louis. St. Louis is going to have an XFL team, though.
Right, yeah.
They were also pointing out Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and someplace in...
I heard Fargo.
Yeah, Fargo, Idaho. Somebody mentioned that Syracuse would be a great place to have it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really familiar with what the big unattached markets are at this point in terms of like college football. So I'm not really sure.
Because
I do think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was about to say, as crazy as it sounds, putting a team in Fargo may work because they support North Dakota State football very hard out there.
They have a dome.
Yeah, the Fargo Dome. Remember, this is a team that they've won. They went on a streak. They were the national champions this past year. There was a point where they won 3 or 4 national championships in a row, and they had knocked off a few Division I schools. And they had College Game Day come out there, and they packed it out. Like, there's some dedicated football fans out there in North Dakota.
Yeah, that's the deal. Is if you can pick your market where people are hungry for more football, it doesn't necessarily matter if you don't have a huge population center where it is. We're having a conversation about this on a thread in the subreddit, and something I pointed out, which I'm no NFL scholar, but if I remember correctly from the documentaries, Green Bay was once a really stupid place to have a football team. Everybody was like, why the hell are you going to have a team in Green Bay when you could have them in Milwaukee instead? But the smaller town that had the rabid fans that ended up owning the team defined what it meant to have football in a small market. It wasn't just Green Bay either. There were a ton of early football teams that started in places like Akron, Ohio.
Right.
A lot of those teams ended up moving or disbanding, but the idea was to get into markets where the fans would show up, even if it wasn't a population center. I think now, with the way broadcasts are done, and the majority of your audience doesn't give a shit where the football's being played.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the Fargo Dome would fit perfectly for this league. It looks like it has a capacity of 19,000 people. I think it would be a good fit.
Could you imagine having sold-out games with full attendance in a 19,000 dome?
Yeah, it's a very tiny dome. Like, it would probably get loud in there. I mean, that would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. Anything else from y'all? Hopefully we can have Bill and Alex on again for sure. If we could do it every week, I'd be set. But obviously, you guys have lives, so I'm not going to entertain that question.
Yeah, let us know.
Me
too. I'd love to be back. It's good natural conversation.
Well, I say follow us on Twitter at Reddit AAF.
Yes.
And we hope to hear from you. We live tweet all the games and do our best to not embarrass ourselves with many gift choices.
Yeah. we try and live tweet as well. I end up getting distracted a lot, and I just kind of just make random things appear, and I just compare it to whatever's going on in the AAF game. Because
I will say sorry.
No,
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say we probably will be pretty light this weekend because I know you're going on a trip.
Yep.
I'll cover some of the games, but there may be some games we may not be around this weekend. Just a heads up.
Yeah, and then
we'll miss you.
4 weeks from now, neither Logan nor I will be able to tweet at all about AAF. So you guys, we'll give you another warning about it that week. We'll probably do an episode way in advance for that.
Probably Monday.
Yeah, because
Monday
you
night.
leave for Jersey Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday morning.
Okay, yeah, we could do one Monday night then, because I don't leave until Wednesday. But yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at AAF Wednesday. That is currently our only social media page that you can follow, along with our YouTube page, Wednesday Night AAF Podcast, and we're also on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and we'll be on more soon if you guys request it. That is all that we have this week. We're very excited for this week of AAF football. Catch you guys soon. Thank you for tuning in.